Our next speaker will be talking to us about the Google perspective. So, just a very quick introduction. Our next speaker looks after agency relations and sales development for emerging markets in Southeast Asia. Is also responsible for developing and strengthening relationships with key agencies and clients across the region. He helps clients to engage their customers by providing them with integrated solutions, including media advertising, as well as developing applications for platforms like YouTube, Google Earth, Google Maps, etc. He has worked at Google for over 5 years and has handled key industries like CPG, finance, travel, and I don't know why it's such a favorite topic today, autos. All right, let's introduce Anand Tilak, the Regional Manager for Agency Business and Sales Development for Google Southeast Asia. Anand.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
Thank you. So I'm the last man standing between you and lunch. And I know that hungry audience can be angry audience. The only advantage of speaking before lunch is the fact that people ask less questions because they have better priorities in life. So I'll try and make this as fast as possible. So I joined the digital world in late 2000, about 12 years ago. And I've been in digital media for about 12 years now. And since 2003, which is for about the last 10 years, a lot of people like me have been saying that this is the year of mobile. And we've been saying that since 2003. I have been saying that since I didn't have any gray hair. And a lot has changed in the last 10 years. But for the first time, I think this is really going to be the year of mobile. So what has changed? What has changed in the last couple of years? So it's obviously the scenario has changed quite a lot. As Joe was telling earlier, look at this. The number of tablet shipments this year itself is going to exceed 100 million. So this year, and his number was about 120 million, so everybody says that there'll be about 120 to 100 million tablets that were shipped this year. Let's also take a look at how technology has changed. And tablet is probably the fastest growing ever consumer product. Let's look at Apple, for example. And if you look at iPod as a product, it took Apple a year to reach a mark of 1 million units sold. When they launched iPhone, they hit 1 million mark in less than 1 quarter. And when they launched iPhone, it took them less than 1 month to hit the 1 million mark in terms of new users. Now, if you look at the iPhone 5, in the first 3 days, 5 million iPhones were sold just in the first 3 days. So that's how fast things are changing. That's Apple's story. Let's look at Android. Now, on a daily basis, 1.3 million Android devices get activated globally. 1.3 million devices. And what's the picture of a pretty baby doing here? It's not just to make a slide pretty, but it just goes to show that there are more Android devices that get activated every day than the number of babies born every day. And all of us know Asia is a factory of babies, and if Android is actually producing more devices than the number of babies born globally, you can imagine how fast this is growing. So it's not just scale, or it's not just the quantum, but also the engagement that users have. And we have heard many stories, but the research that I've read, it says that people look at the mobile phones more frequently in a day than they look at their own spouse or a boyfriend or girlfriend. So that's how engaged we are with mobile phones. We are far more engaged with our mobile phones than our spouse or our family members. So this is how things have changed, not just in numbers, but also in engagement. This is the picture of what happens in your living room every day. Don't worry, it's not your living room, but in any living room. So this is the story of 4 screens that people kept talking since morning. So you are sitting in front of TV, but you're actually using internet on your laptop or a desktop. You're using a tab, and you're using mobile phone. So it's a story of 4 screens. And data in Philippines suggests that about 2/3 of users in Philippines, 67% of people who are sitting in front of TV are actually not engaged with TV. They're actually engaged more on internet. So research in the Philippines and worldwide shows that internet surfing is the second most popular activity that people are engaged in when they're watching TV. The first, don't get any naughty ideas. The first one is eating. Yeah. So internet surfing is the second biggest activity that people indulge in. So what happens when people are engaged with different screens when they're sitting in front of TV? There are extremists who have an extreme view which say that TV will become radio, because you're sitting in front of TV but you're not watching it, you're just hearing what's happening. And therefore there are extremists who of the opinion, they think that TV is now going to become radio because people are getting less and less engaged with the TV. So what happens to a marketing plan when you have users who are engaged with 4 screens? So that's the reason why you need to integrate your campaigns. You need to have your campaigns across all 4 screens. So for any large TV spending client here, this highlights the need for you to integrate your campaigns across all 4 screens, because any campaign which is across all 4 screens, it produces better results in terms of awareness, in terms of reach, in terms of effectiveness. Because people, as we saw in Philippines, 2/3 of the people who are sitting in front of TV are actually not engaged with TV. So there is an opportunity for you to capitalize on your TV buys and to make sure that if your campaign is present across all the 4 screens, it will work better for you. Let's take a typical look at how users use different devices in a day, in a typical day. And if you look at this slide, you'll realize that before 9 o'clock in the morning or after 6 o'clock in the evening, that's when the device of choice is mobile phones. So between 9 to 6, the primary device that you use for accessing internet, without a doubt, is a laptop or a desktop. But before 9 o'clock in the morning or after 6 o'clock in the evening, that's when people start getting engaged with your mobile device. It could be a phone, it could be a tablet. So that was data in terms of time of the day. Let's look at day of the week. And worldwide, we have seen that, globally, we have seen that people tend to use mobile phones far more on a weekend versus weekday. Because as we saw in 9 to 6 during the day, same thing happens on weekdays versus weekend. From Monday to Friday, you tend to use laptop or desktop as a primary device, but on the weekends, you use mobile phones or a tab. And all of us think that, oh, this is Western data, it happens only in the US and UK, I don't have to be worried about it. Consumers are far behind. That's not the case. So to analyze this, we analyzed the data for the category restaurants in Philippines. And we did this for about, I think, month of June, a few months ago. And the red line that you can see here talks about mobile queries. And the blue line is desktop queries. And you will find all the 5 peaks for red, which is the peak in terms of traffic for mobile devices. And when we found out, these are all Saturdays. So on weekends, people tend to use mobile phones or a mobile device far more than what they use during weekdays. So what we have found is these 2 devices actually work with each other and they're not fighting with each other. People choose different devices depending on what day is it in the week and what time is it in a particular day. So also what we have seen is, this is something that happened in India, I think 5 or 6 months ago. Now there is more traffic through mobile phone than internet. And very soon it could happen here as well, because if cheaper price, low price Android or any smartphone gets launched, more and more people will start using smartphones, and therefore you'll get more traffic on the internet from mobile devices as compared to a desktop. So what are people doing? How are people using mobile internet in the Philippines? So there are primarily 4 things that people use. The first one, not a surprise, which is very, very basic, is the fact that people start searching more. Every year, we have seen more than 100% and sometimes 200% increase in the search queries that we get from Philippines. So over a period of time, in the last 4 years, the search queries that we get from mobile devices has increased about 8 times in the last 4 years. And what we have also realized, a smartphone user searches about 50 times more than a feature phone user. That is in terms of how many times does he or she use, and in terms of content areas is also very different. A feature phone user searches for queries related to entertainment, local, and adult content, whereas a smartphone user looks for about 7 or 8 different areas, which is like news, for sports, for restaurants, for entertainment. So when you become a smartphone user, you would start to search little more, not little more actually, quite dramatically more, and your content areas are also very, very big. The next one, and this is happening across all of Asia, is how people connect with each other and communicate with each other. I was in Pakistan few months back, and this is a famous cricketer turned politician called Imran Khan. And Imran Khan is a cricketer who turned politician few years ago, and he arranged a hangout on air. So he actually allowed users in Pakistan to ask him questions because he's aspiring to be the next prime minister. There were a lot of questions that were asked to him, and questions were allowed to be voted, and this was all on Google Plus platform using Google Hangout. And what they did was, the 9 most popular questions, the users were actually allowed to speak to Imran Khan. So these were like 9 or 10 people who were allowed to speak to Imran Khan, but at the same time, about 26,000 people were watching this Hangout live. So this is a new way of communicating with your target audience. The bigger the celebrities, bigger the success of the Hangout. So 26,000 for a politician is a big number. The next one is entertainment. And can you take a guess of how much time users spend on playing Angry Birds every day? Just take a guess. How many years do you think people globally spend on playing Angry Birds every day? Take a guess. Just throw a number. All the users put together. Look at the statistics. It's really staggering. 125 years of time people spend on Angry Birds every day. And if you have in your family or friends who have kids in the age group of 3 to 10, talk to them about Angry Birds and their eyes will light up. And they will start respecting you because you're a cool uncle or a cool auntie. Otherwise, they will not respect you. So this is how mobile phones are being used. And people say that mobile phone is the best babysitter. You give the phone to the child and the child will be quiet for next 2 hours. Won't bother you. So how can apps be used? So an average Asian user uses about 15 apps per user. About 15 apps, out of which 5 are paid and 10 are free. And an average time that user spends on these apps is about 1 hour per day. So that's the kind of statistic. So all this is fine, but how do you use this for your marketing campaigns? And what we have found when we spoke to a lot of clients who worked with us for the last 3 years on mobile campaigns, we have classified all the campaigns into 4 categories. One is branding campaign. The next one is transactions or e-commerce or conversions. The next one is all the campaigns which are targeted towards building awareness or engagement for your brand. And lastly, the campaigns which are targeted at allowing people to download an app. So I've got a few quick examples. I'm doing okay, looks like on the time. Okay, so branding. So if you look at the branding campaigns, there is a very nice campaign that we work with Volvo, the car manufacturer. And this was a unique case because this car was approaching 3 million miles. It's a car which is about 50 years old, still works and runs really well, and it has run 3 million miles. So this was a promotion campaign that Volvo was working with us. And the car was driving around the United States. And as a user, you could identify which state, which city, and which street is it in at that particular time. So it was an app which was meant for engagement of users. And research, when we conducted research to find out the effectiveness of this campaign, we found that for all key metrics of the brand, which is awareness, brand favorability, purchase intent, all of them increased significantly among those people who saw the ad on mobile phones versus those who had not seen the ad on mobile phones. So there was a significant difference. Going back to integrating your campaigns across different screens and different devices, the campaign results showed that those people who saw the ad or who saw the campaign on TV, 50% of them had correct recall in terms of brand messaging. But when the campaign started, on TV and mobile, the awareness increased by about 50%. So this again goes back to integration, and it shows that TV and mobile works far better than TV alone, because that's where engagement is there from user perspective. Close to home, we have a very good case study from L'Oreal, Estée Lauder, and what they did was they had a campaign where they wanted users to watch a TV commercial for about 30 seconds. And this was a challenging campaign because all of us know broadband speeds 2 years ago were not really great in all of Southeast Asia. This is a 2-year-old case study. And the challenge was this was a campaign targeted at smartphones and feature phones. So because the client was using analytics, they got a lot of information from this campaign. So what they actually could make out, which day of the week are people visiting most, what time of the day are people visiting the most, what pages on the site are most popular, what pages on the site are least popular. It also allowed them to identify, is there a high correlation between the device and the brands people are searching for? So is there a very high correlation between, let's say, an iPad user versus a particular brand and a feature phone user versus a particular brand? So they could get a lot of information. It also allowed them to identify which geographical regions within Thailand are they getting most traffic from. So if you felt that the distribution for your brand wasn't particularly strong in a particular area, you could actually beef it up because you had actual data of which part of the country from Thailand are you getting most visitors from. I'm now going to show you a case study from Unilever Indonesia. So this was a campaign that we worked on for Unilever Indonesia last year around the same time. This was for Southeast Asian Games. And the campaign objective was to create signatures or support for the Indonesia team for Southeast Asian Games. And we delivered 15 million signatures or 15 million supports in a matter of 1 month. So there are a lot of perceptions among clients and agencies that mobile does not have scale. This actually helped us to break that barrier that scalability is not at all an issue with mobile phone campaigns. The other one that we realized was we actually conducted a research to find out the effectiveness of mobile ads. And what we found was for all the key brand metric, which is brand awareness, purchase intent, and brand favorability, all the results were significantly better for people who saw the ads on mobile phones versus those who had not seen the ads. So mobile rich media campaigns actually help you to uplift your brand metrics, which are very, very important for a brand like Unilever. So essentially what we have understood for any campaign which is focused on branding, there are three things that you need to look at. One is you can use rich media to build engagement. That allows you to have a great engagement with the users. Tactics like page takeovers and roadblocks allow you to create that impact. And in the last one, you can use CPC banners, which will allow you to sustain the campaign over a period of time. Moving on to the next one, which is a campaign targeted at transactions or conversions. And why is it so important? Why is it working so well? So what we have found globally is 1 out of every 3 search queries that we get now has a local intent, which means people could be looking for an ATM location, a bank location, petrol station. They could be looking for a florist, coffee shop. So it has a local intent. And what we have found is in 90% of the cases, when people look for a look for local information on a mobile phone, they end up taking some action on it. And what does that action mean? That action could be anything. That action could be visiting the website of a store. That action could be physically walking inside the store. That could be calling up the store, finding out driving directions, or actually buying something online. So in 90% of the cases, when users in Asia look for local information, they will take an action on it, and it is not just for the sake of researching. The other one which is very popular among users in Asia is mobile phone is used as a very smart shopping companion. So suppose you're buying a LED TV, you go into a store and you find out the price of a particular brand. Immediately you go online and check the price of the same brand, same model in other stores. If it is cheaper here, you buy here, otherwise you walk across. So smartphone is a very, very smart shopping companion. Of course, we have seen information earlier, but if your text ads are optimized for mobile, and if your landing page is optimized for mobile phones, your campaign results can improve by up to 50%. And there are 3 reasons why we have seen mobile campaigns work really, really well as compared to a desktop. The first one is click to call. So when people search for a restaurant, they obviously want to go and eat there. So if you allow them to make a call and book a table, it actually makes it easy for the consumers. The next one is if you allow users to download a coupon, if you're sending them to a restaurant or a shop, it actually makes it easier for them and incentivizes them to go to a store. And the last one is to how do you build a traffic to a store. So if you can do these 3 things, it makes it easy for the users, it actually improves the user experience and improves the campaign performance. And we have seen clients in the region whose ROI is as high as 1:30, which means for every $1 that they spend on mobile campaigns with us, they could get returns as much as $30. So ROI can be extremely efficient in case of mobile campaigns. Again, we have an example of Toyota from Indonesia, and this was a campaign targeted just at iPad users, and we had delivered 4 million downloads of apps for Toyota in Indonesia. So if you look at mobile for conversion marketing, again there are a few things that you have to keep in mind. First of all, you have to make sure that your website is mobile optimized. It serves a good user experience. Also, apart from sales, try to explore other features like allow them to make a call, or allow them to download a coupon, or allow them to download an app. And of course, you can use search, because search works extremely well on mobile phones, because you can actually tailor your ads on mobile device versus desktop, which works far better. The next one is campaigns which are built at creating awareness or engagement for your campaigns. And there are a couple of nice examples here. All the advertising campaigns that are targeted at building awareness and engagement can be classified, or we have classified them into 3 sets. One is the pre-launch, where you want to create the buzz and awareness. The second one is during the launch phase, and the next one is post-launch. So we have seen some nice campaigns which have worked really well for clients. So let's say a client like Honda, when they launched Honda Civic, they actually allowed users to create their own avatars, create their own personalities. And depending on the personality that they created, they recommended a particular car model to them. And that's how they started engaging users. We've also seen some nice examples by Nike, where they actually allow you to design your own shoe. You can actually design your own shoe. You can design the color of your shoe, the shoe upper, the shoe sole, the laces. You can design the shoe entirely. And we have also seen extreme examples on something where very, very basic, very, very simple or boring, non-sexy text ads. And they also work really well. Because if you're in the market and if you're searching for Samsung Galaxy S3, the chances are you are very close to purchase. What you type in the search box is a very good indicator of how close or how far away you are from purchase. If your search query just says smartphone, you're probably away from purchase. If your search query says Samsung Galaxy S3, then you're more or less decided that you want to buy this particular product, and therefore you're closer to purchase. One nice example that we have always seen here is from McDonald's. So they actually allowed users to play a game on the mobile phone, which got projected on the electronic billboard. So if you're not good at playing games on mobile phones, don't try this. Because there could be 1,000 people around you who will actually get to see such a fool you are. So if you're not good at playing mobile phones, don't try this. But this was again a conversion-led campaign, because anyone who attempted or who was brave enough to try this, to play the game, they actually got coupons, and McDonald's store was in the same building, and they got coupons for trying McDonald's. So this was again a campaign which actually used that. So what are the three launch phases? So during pre-launch, post-launch, and launch phase, there are a few things that you have to be careful of. I'm just going to skip this slide because I'm running late, it looks like. Yes, I understand. So app download. So the last one is app download. So most of the large brands globally have applications. And having an application, as we understood, is not enough. And what we've realized is there are 3 product categories where apps work really, really well. Food and beverage application, because that's a daily consumption. The next one, which is high loyalty program, which is like a travel category. And the next one is something like a banking or a telco, which has recurring usage. Now, there are few guidelines that we have seen that work really well for app marketing. One is you have to offer utility or entertainment, or ideally both, if you want a successful app. The next one is make sure that you design apps for all platforms, because that's where the users are spread. And finally, promote your app. The reason why you need to promote, everybody said that earlier, there are millions of apps, and that's why you need to promote these apps. You could promote the apps when users are searching for your brand. You could promote an app when users are surfing relevant content. And that is how you capitalize on the promotion of app. So again, there are a few learnings that we have had when we have had campaigns for promoting downloads of applications. So very quickly, to summarize, this is what you have heard from all our clients as to what are the 3 or 4 things that are absolutely critical for a campaign which is on mobile phones. First of all, imagine there are users like me, have sympathy for people like me who have fat thumbs. So design for something where people are not using a mouse. Also, if you look at, you have to keep the layout very, very simple. Make it easy for people to find information. Also, the fact that when you have a mobile phone, please use features like click to call, click to download to make it easy for users. And finally, make it easy for people to convert it. Don't expect people to play a treasure hunt game on a mobile phone. If they're visiting your store, throw them directly to the page where they're looking for product. So as I said, I think I'm exceeding on time, but I just have one slide. As you know, you have been sitting here since 10 o'clock in the morning. We are running slightly late. You could be hungry, and the chances are you have forgotten everything that I said, which is all right. But just keep three things in mind. One is mobile usage and engagement is growing very, very fast. The next one, the moment you start talking about mobile campaigns, remember the story of 4 screens. So every time when you have a campaign on TV, make sure that you have campaign on 3 more screens, which is laptop, a desktop, a tablet, and a mobile phone. And lastly, mobile campaigns work across marketing objectives, whether it is for branding, awareness, engagement, or transactions. That's it from me. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you, Anand. All right. Well, does anybody have any questions for Anand before we adjourn for lunch? Or is everybody now Googling for the nearest restaurant? All right. Maybe just one question. Yeah? Yeah. Well, you don't have to sit down anymore. Well, since you already gave us a lot of pretty good pointers as to how to conduct a mobile or formulate a mobile strategy, has anybody ever asked Google or consulted Google about an existing marketing strategy or a mobile design that they would ask Google to take a look at and maybe refine a little bit?
So we essentially look at a few things that we saw earlier, which is like making it easy for users to convert, or making sure that you're designing an application where people will not be using a mouse. So we just stick to those few key principles that we have seen that work really well. So we just make sure that we just give those principles to them and say that if you look at it from a user perspective, because all of us are closely involved with the brand, and we may not look at it from a consumer perspective. So the best thing that we actually ask them to do is show it to, let's say, 10 or 20 users and ask them to give the feedback, because they're the best people to talk about the designs.
Sure. And it usually works that the feedback they get helps them to refine the mobile side.
Absolutely.
All right. Okay. Anand, Tilak, thanks very much for all of those great pointers.
Thank you.
Thank you.